What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I want to talk to you about Virgin Galactic, ticker is SPCE. The price action that's been happening over the last several days has been disappointing, to say the least. So I want to go over some of the reasons why, go over some of the data points, and where I see things going from here. Before I get into any of that though, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So Friday alone, it did go down 8.27%. A little bit more of a sell-off, as you can see right here. And based on the volume and it being a Friday, it was fairly high. So 51.83 million shares being traded, 67.7 is the average. So like I said, a lot of attention on it for a Friday at least. And Friday's downtrend was largely because of good old analysts. So Ronald Epstein with Bank of America did give a sell rating and a $3 price target. Ronald does have also a 59% success rating, which in comparison to other analysts is fairly good. But once again, as I've said in the past, just analysts do not like Virgin Galactic for whatever reason. And it's kind of weird because there's a lot of other spec stocks out there that seems to get a lot more attention from analysts. So I'm not really sure why exactly, but still at the end of the day, they do play a very big part in up and down trends. So a lot of volatility surrounding that. And the consensus among all the analysts right now is $3.81, which surprisingly, even though it's only at $3.87, it does have a downside of 2%, give or take. So once again, this is kind of what prompted a little bit more of a sell-off from Friday. And then Thursday, which was very, very weird, they actually had their very first flight. So in reality, it was successful, very positive. In my opinion, who isn't a financial advisor, of course, the only reason why I feel that it did go down on Thursday was largely because of this. So instead of having celebrities and wealthy that obviously could be spreading out the word and having positive things to say afterwards, it was more of a research-focused mission. So in reality, I think that's why it didn't really go up and why there wasn't so much hype around it. So once again, that's just my own interpretation of that. So let me know you guys' thoughts on, for instance, analysts. So Ronald Epstein giving a $3 target, and why do you think the analysts do not like Virgin Galactic? I do see on a lot of social medias, obviously stock twits and so forth, a lot of people saying that, well, Virgin Galactic is just diluting. Well, I do agree with you, but as I've said in the previous video, I feel that, for instance, going back over here, with that money that they're going to be essentially diluting with, they're going to be buying, or at least having enough funding for a second spacecraft. Because imagine if this goes out of commission, they would be screwed, completely screwed. Which, imagine what would happen to the stock price if their only sole craft was to go down, their operation would cease. But yet if they have two, then that obviously rectifies the problem. So once again, I think that is a little bit more of a double-edged sword. Yes, dilution, nobody wants to ever dilute, but at the same time, if that situation was to ever occur, imagine the damage that would happen to the stock price, which in my opinion might far exceed even what is potentially being even diluted. So once again, that's just different interpretations how to see it. Based on the recent options activity though, this is only the calls looking at the strike prices, expiry dates. It does look like around $4.50 to $5 is anticipated over the next couple of weeks. So once again, let me know you guys' thoughts on that. As far as big money getting in, both on the 30th and the 29th, there was a lot of big transactions. So 117, 123,000, and that was on the 30th, and then 223 and 153 based on the 29th. So when it comes down to it, majority of these surprisingly were actual sales as well. So big money still matches exactly what institutions and what analysts are thinking, and just not really getting into Virgin Galactic as much as a lot of retail investors are under the impression that would happen. So once again, it's just not necessarily playing out how a lot of people anticipated, me being one of them as well. So as far as what is coming next, so I'll go over this. So with it being at $3.88, it is currently trading between this S1 and the pivot, which in comparison to a lot of other growth stocks is kind of underperforming, because right now a lot of other growth stocks are currently between the P and the R1. But the next big resistance and support points that you need to watch for is 326, and vice versa for a resistance is $4. So it might be wedge bound between here, but I do feel that if it does get to around the low threes once again, the sentiment, negative sentiment more specifically, is going to kick in and prompt it to go down, despite the positive movement that's been happening operationally. Because of course, I think the next flight is going to be in August, if I understand and what I've seen out there, the estimated flight, of course. So when it comes down to it, there is going to be a source of revenue physically coming in, but despite that though, it's almost trading at 52-week and all-time lows. So it's very weird on exactly what is happening. If it can actually stay above this $4 range, then it'll be more so in line with a lot of other growth stocks, so trading between this 4 and the 475. But like I said, over the last several days, it kind of killed the momentum 100%. And even more so, it did break below this 50-day moving average, which is a very difficult one, or difficult moving average for Virgin to get over and successfully stay there. Because typically, whenever it does get over that, it usually is prompted by a little bit more of a rally, as you can see. But like I said, based on Friday more specifically, Thursday bounced off of it, but Friday it did break below that. So it is lower percentile of the Bollinger Band. And as far as looking at stochastic, it is at 20, a little bit more of a bearish sentiment starting to form right now, but it is at 20, which can be perceived as a little bit more oversold. As well, number of retail investors have just been getting out of Virgin. So give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying, selling, holding? What is your take on Virgin? And give me your thoughts on what has recently happened over the last several days. Do you think that was assumed? Like, were you anticipating that, or were you anticipating it to get to back to the 5s, 6s? What is your take on all of that? Like I said, when it comes down to options activity, it is anticipated to go up next week or the following couple of weeks as well to around 455 or potentially higher. But options activity is just a little bit more of a sentiment only. It doesn't necessarily move the stock price. So let me know you guys' thoughts on all of that in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, I appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money eventually on Virgin Galactic.